Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call the February 11th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. Let the record state that all board members are here. I have asked Mr. Black if he would give us the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by these young folks who have volunteered to help us out. Mr. Black?
All rise, please. Dear Lord in heaven above, as we come before you tonight, we ask you to bless us, those that make the decisions. We ask you that we have open ears and listen to everyone's opinions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Alexandra, would you have your folks stand at the mic, and we'll all turn and face the flag. And whenever you're ready, we'll follow you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And again, I've said it before, but I like to get the young folks involved because that, helps them kind of understand government's here for them, or at least on the local level. And it really does my heart good to hear the pledge from such high-pitched young voices. Board comments. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of. I would like to announce that that there is a request to modify an existing permit that would allow the use of biosolids, and so there is a meeting regarding that that's scheduled for tomorrow night in Bowling Green. I don't know whether we're going to be there tomorrow night, but at any rate, they have scheduled an alternate date of February 25th. And basically what this is about is the use of biosolids in certain areas in the county. We already have a permit that allows us, but in order to bring on new sites, it has to be approved by DEQ, and permits have to be given by the health department. I'm not saying I'm against all of those sites, but I am against one of them, and that's the one that's right down from the Upper Caroline Fire Department. It's less than a mile from a subdivision that has about 50 houses, and there are about 25 additional houses. And the use of biosolids in an area with this much residency and with the use of the fire station during the summer for many outdoor activities, I think it would really be an issue as far as the quality of life is concerned. So I won't go into details, but that meeting, as I said, is scheduled for tomorrow night if the weather does not permit on the 25th, and I would strongly urge people, especially if you're in that area, that you would come out and voice your concerns along those lines. It's not something that the board has authority over. Obviously, DEQ, the General Assembly, has the authority over that, but certainly we can state our concern. And as a representative of the Port Royal District, I feel I need to do that on behalf of the citizens in that area. And Mr. Chairman, the only other thing I have is I am the chairperson for the Education Steering Committee for VACO. And so we are already beginning to put together concerns, educational concerns as they affect various localities. So if the board has something that VACO can address, or if there is a concern that they feel VACO would address, being chair of the Education Committee, I would certainly be happy to do what I can to address that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Black?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few as well. First of all, I want to thank Lake Landor for hosting this year's Polar Bear Plunge. The plunge was a lot more, I guess, chilly than in previous years. The lake actually had ice on it. I want to thank the Ladysmith volunteers for coming out and supporting that as well with the ambulance that was there. The plunge was able to raise around $19,000 this year in donations. So for those of you that are here that donated, thank you. And thanks to the other members of the Board of Supervisors for the $1,000 donation from the Board of Supervisors. That's one of the events that in Caroline County that you can go out witness where people all come together for a great cause. So thank you for everyone who participated and donated to that. The second item I have for opening comments is I'd like to make an announcement. I will be having a constituent meeting on Thursday, February 20th at 6 p.m. at County Line Baptist Church. And that will go from 6 to 7:15, and then from 7:30 to 8:45, 9 o'clock in the Heritage Clubhouse in Lake Landor. That meeting will have both the all national, state, and local representatives there. Congressman Rob Whitman will be there, who represents our district, as well as Delegate Buddy Fowler from the House of Delegates will be there. That's on February 20th. And that's open to all county residents. So if you guys are interested in seeing it, you'll have the 3 representatives there to discuss national, state, and local issues. And finally, I'd like to thank Virginia Department of Transportation, Mr. Nelson, who comes here. He's been very responsive in some of the concerns that have been addressed to him by the residents of Lake Landor and the Western Carolina District. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Underwood?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 short comments. I want to thank Mr. Culley and Mr. Pardon for attending a Reedy Church District constituent meeting last night. Certainly it was very informative, and I think we made great progress. Second, I do have a concern regarding racing at the state fair. Part of the proffers said that there would be no racing, and yet it continues to be brought to my attention that we still are moving that ordinance further back, turn that proffer further back and further back. And it is a concern that if we allow any type of racing, that opens the door for additional racing. And I really think this board should take a stance, because that was part of the original agreement, that there would be no motorized racing. Whether it's against time or 2 cars or 3, to me it doesn't matter. Once you open the door, it's going to be a problem. So I'm asking this board to support me when we discuss this issue later on in our upcoming meetings. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one. And I think the board has received an email or a letter from a Debbie Peterson. She is with the Rappahannock area rape crisis, I believe it is, in Fredericksburg. We have supported, the county has supported that organization in past years with a $1,000 donation. However, this year we did not include that into the budget. It appears that Caroline and King George also did not support it, but it's my understanding that they have now gone back and made the contribution. One of the things that she indicated to me during the conversation we had was that last year about 40% of the people they helped were from Caroline County. In the month of January this year, 8% of the people that has been assisted through that organization have been Caroline County residents. And so I think it's important that we do put that $1,000 back into the budget and contribute that, donate that $1,000 to this organization in this year's budget. And I would certainly ask the board to do that. And after the public comments, Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, I would like to make a motion to amend the budget to include that $1,000 donation. People in Caroline County are benefiting from that, and it is an organization that I think that we need to support. They've asked for $1,000, and we have in the past. Give it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Akers, and I neglected to do amendments, so that's good. It worked out good. We'll do that amendment when we're done. Mr. Seeley?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I have one. We talked about Sunday hunting in the county. Mr. Pardon informed me that Sunday hunting just passed the Senate today and also passed the House. So it's going to happen, and when it passed, there was a no local option involved. So localities will have no say-so whatsoever regarding that. The only benefit was it's not going to allow hunting with dogs on Sunday. So since we don't allow rifle hunting, There may be a few people that use shotguns, but there should be a little bit less. So that's it for me. I neglected to do amendments. Mr. Cully has an amendment, which is Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. They're going to make a presentation, and they're here, right?
No, sir. This one is, Mr. Fincham's going to go over with you.
Okay.
We have,
DEQ is here.
that's
Okay.
water management.
So we're adding 7A for Mines and Minerals. And Mr. Akers, you would like to add 7B, we might as well have? And at that time, we can figure out if we gave money before, what happened.
We would like to add a closed meeting, discussion with legal counsel, Aqua.
Closed meeting with legal counsel for Aqua. We have closed meeting for
Economic development.
New tongue, I can't use it. Prospective business.
And the Rotary is not going to be here either.
Right, and we're going to strike the Rotary off. Send your well wishes to Mrs. Moyer, who apparently fell and broke her hip, so we're wishing her the best. All right, so a motion to add those two items, we're taking that off. Add those two items and remove Rotary would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, second by Mr. Underwood. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. On to the first item on the agenda is presentations. At this point, I'm going to ask the new Caroline County Chamber of Commerce President, Ms. Mary Pitts, if she will come forward. We wanted to recognize you as the new president of the Chamber and pledge our support to you as a business-friendly local government. And also, now I'd like you to help me, because I'm going to show off my Italian. My paisan, I don't know how to say come forward, but grazie and prego. That's thank you and you're welcome, that's all. We wanted to recognize Vito Amato, who is the Caroline County Business Person of the Year. And I think that's a great accomplishment, a great feat. You've been, I know it was at least 25 years, I think they said it was 26, 27? 27 years you've been at Roma's in Bowling Green. You have other restaurants. Free pizza for everybody? That's why I love Vito. That's why I love Vito. But he has done, I've done things for the schools, and Vito's given us discounts to take pizzas down there. He's always a great person when there's an event in the community. We just want to thank you, welcome you up here, and say congratulations. So thank you. Now, Vito, where exactly do you live? Where exactly do you live? All right, we won't hold that against you. Okay. If you will come up on stage with Mrs. Pitts, please. And is all of that familiar? Yeah. Come to. Okay, we're going to take one. Me and you, we have a resolution for you. I told you we're going to make a big fuss over you. So we have a resolution for you, commending all the things you've done. You put it up in your restaurant next to the cash register. Okay, but I want Mr. Pitts, we're going to mark, you're going to tell us where to go. I know. You stand right here in the middle, Vito. This is our resolution for you, commending you, Mary and Mark. Okay, now. La familia? Bene qua. Mrs. Amato, congratulations to you. And we wanted to get you in and out as quickly as possible because your sons are running the places, right? You've got to get back fast. Gracias.
Big family.
Okay. Let's see. Can we bring it around this way to the corner and collect what we show? It's a big group here.
Mary, you're there too. before you go, you want to say something? And then Mary, thank you.
I want to thank you, all Caroline County, for this beautiful words. It means a lot to me. A lot of work, and payoff. Thank you, guys, and I look forward to working another 27 years in the county for you guys. Thank you.
Usually at a loss for words. I just wanted to thank the Board of Supervisors for the recognition. The Chamber is really excited to work with you guys this year, and let's really put Caroline County businesses on the map.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Mrs. Amaro. This is your father? And your mother? Oh, very good.
How are you?
Glad. Yes, yes. Okay, you got the boys running. Thank you so much. Oh, I need a chair.
I thought maybe you were going to stand the rest of the meeting.
Wouldn't be the first time. I stand a long time. Thank you, Charlie. All right. Thank you very much for your indulgence there. I think it was great to recognize Mr. Amato and his family because they've done a great job in Caroline. As I said before, now Vito, you don't have to stay. If you want to go home or if you want to go back to the store, I know how you are. No, you can stay if you'd like, but you don't have to stay. So it's great, and as I said before, Vito represents the typical American story. He came from Sicily, worked hard, got his own business. One business wasn't enough, so he's got more than one. He's got 2 or 3 now, or is it 4? 2 right now? Okay, you're not counting the other one. Okay, so he's done a great job, and we are so proud of you. So thank you very much. Next, we have the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, and that's the presentation that we're going to get on groundwater quality, groundwater management. So we've gone from happy Italian restaurants to groundwater.
Non capisco italiano, signore.
Oh, really? Je ne parle pas français.
No.
So I know how to say I don't speak French either. So after you, sir.
Well, good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Craig Nickel, and I'm the groundwater permit manager for the Department of Environmental Quality. And we were here today doing a pre-application meeting with some of your local businesses and folks like that. So we wanted to take just a couple moments of your time to try to bring you up to speed. I'm not sure how familiar you are, but what I'd like to let you know is that over the last 100 years, there's been a legacy of research in Virginia that has allowed us to look at groundwater and the withdrawals associated with that and how we manage that resource. Since 2009, well, let me backtrack for a second. Since '92, we've actually been regulating that in Virginia in 2 groundwater management areas. Since 2009, we've been promoting a regulatory change which would allow for an expansion of one of those groundwater management areas, and that was to the Middle Peninsula and to the Northern Neck. Needless to say, that finally made it out of the governor's office after a window of 3 or 4 years. That expansion is upon us as that regulatory process became effective January 1, 2014. As part of that process, anyone that withdraws groundwater 300,000 gallons or more in any month is required to get a permit, and they have until June 30th, 2014, this year, to apply as an existing user. The existing user's process allows them to make a claim to secure their historic use in their current operation for a period of 10 years under an existing user's permit. At that point, then they would go in as a renewed permit, and they would have to meet the residual or the extra requirements. The existing user's process has been built very specifically to reduce cost as you bring people into this system, so it's a savings. The application is $1,200 for an existing user, that carries you over for the whole 10-year period of time, where a new or expanded user would be $6,000. The application process also has been shortened so that you don't have as many requirements in the application process that would result in, putting money out, doing geological research, or any of those kind of things, or upgrading your system. Those can be accumulated and dealt with over the next 10 years to get you into the next permit cycle. So we were here today talking to the folks that we think, or we have identified with the assistance of the health department, that we think will need those permits in Caroline County, walked through that existing user's application process so that we could answer some questions and stimulate them to then get back with us so that we can have more specific and case-by-case type discussions that relate to their permits on an individual basis. I think things are going well, and moving forward, we're trying to do this as quickly as possible and get the word out, so we're here today to do that as well. And really, then the rest of it, I would say I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. And Craig, it was Nickel or Nichols?
Nickel.
Nickel. Okay. Board members have any questions for Mr. Nickel at this time? Ms. Taylor? Okay. Ms. Sealand?
I was just curious how many users we have in the county that withdraw that much a month.
Well, we were able to identify up to about, hold your pen for a moment. We were able to identify about 70 that had a capacity potential to withdraw that much, meaning that their system could maybe do that. Most of those, we would presume 50 to 75% of those people would not need a permit. They're not withdrawing near that amount. It's just that we wanted to ensure that they knew what the regulatory intent was so that they wouldn't get themselves into a situation or place a problem in the future where they would need a permit and not have recognition of that. So right now we're looking at 12 to 20 people that we've been able to identify.
Does that also include water from the river that any farmer would use?
No, this is solely groundwater withdrawals from the coastal plain aquifer.
Okay.
So that's anyone east of I-95 as well. Anything west of I-95 in the county is not included in that management area. So it's just a portion of the county.
But that does include the county.
The portion
Where
of the,
our
the
wells
portion,
are
the
east
portion
of
of the
95.
county that is east of I-95, correct.
So that's our county system.
Yeah, that's the fall line for the coastal
Right.
plain system, and that's why that is developed that way.
Okay.
Ms. Taylor, you had a question?
Yes, I did. I don't know if you're the right person. I spoke earlier about the biosolids. One of the questions that I had was that the area that they're talking about using has some underground streams, and the area is very hilly. Some concern was about the penetration into the streams and groundwater, which tend to go in some of the wells or could go in some of the wells. Is that a reason to deny a permit or to?
Well, first I will say yes, we all are DEQ that work at DEQ, but each and every one of those programs is very specific and has different regulatory programs and statutes that apply to them. I am not a biosolids person, and so I would not be comfortable to answer that question easily. Most of the groundwater regulatory processes that you're going to hear me talk about in the groundwater management area is not a water quality standard and or health-based program. What it's about is actually regulating the resource so that we have continued and sustainable resource. And so we're looking at the withdrawal amount and what that does and how that impacts available use in the future.
So that person would be at the meeting when this is
I'm
discussed?
presuming so.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Underwood?
Yeah, Mr. Nichols, I just had a couple of questions. You said that there were 70 business or 70 entities that had the capacity, possible capacity to meet this limit. If, in fact, I'm not there this year, but I get there this next year, is that a year-by-year permit basis?
The groundwater withdrawal permits are a 10-year permit. The process we're going through right now is, I would equate it to a grandfathering process because people are being brought into the regulatory framework, They're given an ability during this 6 months to apply with a cheaper permit, a cheaper application, however you want to look at that, and to do much less work in developing that application process. So they shouldn't have to hire consultants and those things. At the end of this period that's being opened as an existing users period, and that ends in the end of June, at that point, anyone would be treated as a new or an expanded user.
So if I'm close to the
Did that
the
answer your
mark,
question?
part of it,
Okay.
it would behoove me then to make an application. Can I apply even though I haven't reached the
I think I can-
300,000 limit?
I think I know where you're going. Let me see if I can answer this. The existing users regulation only applies to those folks who have withdrawn 300,000 prior to January 1, 2014. So if your potential to do it in the future, but you have not done it at this point, you have to apply as a new or expanded user.
Then I pay the additional
That's a $6,000
$6,000 permit fee.
for 10 years.
So even though I'm at the 200,000 gallon mark this year, but I know my business is going to expand. So if I go past the 6 months, then, and I know that I'm going to expand, then I'm going to pay the additional $4,800, or it sounds like to me. That I'm going to be required to pay that.
Correct.
Since I can't apply earlier.
Correct.
Is there any thought given to a growing business that may grow?
There are. The existing users permitting process does not really account for expansion. What we're trying to do is secure your existing use so that you can continue to operate as you do right now. As you then expand or change, modify your process or your withdrawal values, we ask that you really become part of the whole process. And to do that, then we ask for the geophysical logs, the other information that are required in the newer expanded system. So we're really trying to just give those people that are currently using an advantage to get into the system and to start planning for those finances. Anyone that is going to do it from this point forward is going to need to have all that information up front. And so what we would probably do is try to work with you to see if you could implement water conservation and management programs and things like that to keep your withdrawal below 300,000 so you don't need a permit. We would try to assist you maybe finding alternate water sources to keep you out of a permitting threshold, and if those didn't work, then at that point we would work to issue you a permit, but it would allow for you to have the expansion process.
And I understand what you're saying, and I just think it would be prudent to look in the future rather than look standing still.
We do.
And it sounds like
the newer existing user allows us to evaluate a current withdrawal and then to build in potential growth demand and those type of things for economic development. The existing user's permit doesn't. It's just an initial way to get you into the system, capture your right to use water, and to allow you to continue to operate.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Ms. Black, you have a question now?
Yes. You had talked about managing the resource. Is there a concern about the aquifer, the amount of water in the aquifer? Has it been dwindling in the past years? Is that something that you guys have been measuring?
Yes, actually, like I said, there's been 100 years worth of data within Virginia through the USGS and other people in the coastal plains. And part of that is that we have seen declines in water level. We have seen saltwater intrusion, land subsidence, well interference amongst two wells, maybe interfering with the capacity of another well. And the four criteria that are triggered in the regulation to expand the management area have to be demonstrated. And so all four of those were actually demonstrated to the State Water Control Board as part of the regulatory process when we intended to move forward. So yes, we are seeing declines, and that's one of the reasons we've expanded into this area.
Now, is there any plans from DEQ or the state to limit localities' withdrawal if you're having a decline in the quantity of water? Is there anything, a cap, is there any plans from that?
The permitting process allows for us to look at the geophysical and hydraulic frameworks within Virginia, and we can look at the different withdrawals by all permitted users and those that we know of by unpermitted users or users that fall below the permitting threshold. And we can run a simulatory model. That model then allows for us to determine areas of impact and effect on drawdown within the aquifer, depending on what aquifer they're in. We can then evaluate that to see if it meets the regulatory criteria, and then we build limits based on that. And so the model helps assist us in creating a limit. For some people, that means the limit may be more stringent based on what other withdrawals are occurring around them and how much aquifer availability, head, the state of the aquifer or its general health in that area. So we try to account for all of those things in the permitting process right now and the modeling process.
So
Did that answer your question?
Is the general answer yes, then, that you can? I mean, is that?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking of something like Caroline County right now. I mean, our major public source of water is underground, from that aquifer.
Right.
And the concern is as we expand, until we get a ground source of, until we figure out a way to do groundwater, if Caroline expands, we're going to be needing to, get more of that water out of that aquifer.
Yeah, the new existing permit, new existing user's permit, we allow for the justification of what your expansion is. We look how you've maybe expanded over the last 10 or 20 years. We also will evaluate your water supply plan that was done regionally and look at what your demand potentials or projections are, and we'll try to account for all that into the permitting process. So we will take that line item of here's the limit we think you have based on what your use is, and then here's what your projections are, and we'll try to build in as much of that as a buffer so people have the ability to continue to develop.
The final question, Mr. Chairman. Where are you guys? I'm sure you've heard King George has had a lot of discussion on it. Are you guys involved with the fracking issue at all, the potential for the fracking? Does that involve you guys?
The director of my division in the Office of Water Supply is one of the DEQ contacts, along with Angie Jenkins. I'm in our policy division, and we are tracking the House and Senate bills for fracking. Currently, with groundwater management in this particular program, we do not have regulations that really apply to that. That is being looked at and evaluated. Obviously, it's a very hot topic,
right.
And we'll be addressing that, I'm sure, in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure we won't get any local options in those ordinances either, but that's another story. Mr. Nickel, thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Okay. Mr. Aikman, question.
My question has, you indicated there were up to 70 potential companies, entities that would be impacted by this new regulation. And this would be a company or an entity that withdraws from their own source of water, right? Their own well.
From groundwater.
Okay. I'm just anxious as to where 70 different entities or companies in east of 95 is located that would be impacted. That's roughly 10,000 gallons a day. That's not on the county system.
Right. Well, what you have to realize is, let me try to use an analogy like a car. Mm-hmm. If a car can do 150, doesn't mean it will, or that anyone will ever drive it that fast. And so that's what we're kind of looking at when I say potential or capacity. Based on the size of the pump, maybe the pumping rate, the storage capacity, those type of things, they may have an ability to get to that. They have a potential for that. So we wanted to identify all of those people. We actually only think there's, like I said, a dozen to 2 dozen people that will actually meet the requirement that they've withdrawn 300,000 or more, or even close to that value. I would say we're at a rate right now throughout the whole middle and northern peninsula, we've probably sent out almost right at 400 letters for potentials. And I would say 50% of those have already been callbacks, and we do not withdraw that amount. Here's the volume we withdraw. And we recognize that. Like I said, that was an intent to ensure that we try to blanket the area, spread the message, and make sure anyone that has that potential is aware that if they were to get that far in the future, they would need a permit.
Well, does Mr. Fincham have a copy or have a list of the...
Mr. Schiebel.
Mr. Schiebel, okay. Do you have a list of the...
I can provide him with one if he doesn't.
I would like to see that, because even 2 dozen, I just have a question as to what companies east of 95 has the capacity to withdraw or needs to withdraw that. That's not on the county system. So if you can give us a list, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That was the last thing I wanted, Mr. Nickel. Thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board.
All right, our next order of business is updating the status repairs of Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Department. I understand that's going to be Chief Nelson? Chief Melson.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Ladies.
Good.
I believe each one of y'all got a letter that was drafted by me, as well as a copy of a potential floor plan we were looking at to address the repairs of the facility. Hopefully it was included in your packet.
It was in our packet? Okay, then we should have that.
That is a major synopsis of where we stand and why it's been going on since September. We wanted to make sure that we had a long-term plan in place and it wasn't just a Band-Aid fix for a building that was built in 1987, and to make sure that it would meet the needs of the citizens, our agency, and the fire and rescue system for the next 20 years, not just for 2 or 3 more years, and more problems would happen. So I outlined those details in that letter to each one of y'all and Mr. Cully as well. And I don't think y'all need me to read it to you.
That would be nice if you didn't.
Would you?
No, I'm saying you don't have to read it to us.
Okay, that's fine.
I think we have it. You want to go ahead?
I've kept Mr. Black in loop as we move through this process. There was times where we didn't have communication because I didn't have any further information to share him. We've gotten engineers involved in it. We've gotten contractors involved in it. I've gotten Chief Loftus involved in it as well to make sure that a concept is there on where we can go forward as a system as we move forward, and Mr. Whiteman as well to make sure that all the design strategies that we put in place in this floor plan would also fix the immediate repairs. There's a problem with load bearing and some floor joists upstairs. There's substantial holes in the floor that lead to the first floor. That was what would be considered our bunk room, where our overnight crews slept at. It was deemed unsafe, and we haven't been able to occupy it since the middle of September. So at the current status of the building, we still continue to maintain overnight crews. We share the living room, the bunk room, the bathrooms, the office, and the kitchen area is all one big multi-purpose room now. That's where we stay. It's the same place that people have held their birthday parties. Mr. Akers, Mr. Black have held meetings there in the past. That's the only room we have to occupy right now until we can get the repairs fixed to where we can, again, occupy the second floor of the facility. What we're trying to do is put in place those repairs. Currently, we don't have the funding to fund the entire project. We don't have a lot of money. Over the years, our donations have dwindled just like, the donations in tax income across the board. I've left the letter open-ended. There's no set dollar amount that we're requesting on behalf of the county. I didn't think that was particularly fair to come in and ask, for $500,000 to build a new fire station. We all know what a new one would cost. We are seeking some assistance. We've outlined in the letter what the potential cost we see in addressing the repairs, which is phase 1. It's about a 4-phase project. 1 is immediately fixing the repairs. We can't move forward with the building until we address the repairs because we can't occupy the second floor of the facility. We fix the repairs. In the process, we would have to remove the ceiling on the first floor as a drop ceiling. Well, if we're going to have to reinstall that ceiling place in there, we don't see where we would benefit if we actually try to create separate male and female bunk rooms, separate male and female bathrooms, showers, etc. All the stuff that we felt as a system as we grow forward we would need, especially if more career staff gets put in over time. We have male and female firefighters now. We also use it as some sort of assembly area. There's a security issue. When you walk in the front door, you're right into our living space, where there would be a second tier of security for that public assembly area, for our lodging, security purposes. We get everybody on the first floor with their apparatus to help increase that response time and continue things as normal. Phase 3 and 4 would be whatever we decide to do with the second floor as we move on. That's not as high on our priority list. It's to get back some livable space where we're not all occupying the same living area. It's like pretty much a whole family living in your dining room is what it's come down to. We've moved beds down there and whatnot. So as we move forward, we projected the amount to totally redo the first floor and affix the repairs with putting those walls and those partitions in. It's going to include some plumbing issues because there's currently no showers on the first floor. All that design stuff has been put in here. If you have any questions, the floor plan's on there. If you want to look at it, it's pretty much taking everything from the first and second floor, putting it on one floor, and everything's in one place and maximizing the amount of wasted space that we currently have. That building met our needs in 1987. We did the dances, the other big events out of that, and it was more of a cafeteria, buffet, area where we had people mingling in there. We're trying to maximize the amount of space we have in that square footage. So, but we just don't see the need in putting a ceiling in there that costs $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000. With the age of the building, there's going to be electrical issues that are going to pop up when they're doing it. So we're trying to make sure that there's some expansion in there. And if we drop that ceiling and then 2 years down the road we rip that brand new ceiling we just invested in as a whole. So to go ahead and now's the time to do it. The ceiling's got to get removed, the repairs have to be fixed, and then over time we could phase in the second floor and put that the meeting room, office space back in there. But it's immediately to address the day room, the office, and the lounge, bathrooms, kitchen area downstairs.
Done, Chief?
I think so.
Okay, I just wanted to see, I don't want to cut you off, but I wanted to make sure they had up the board any questions. Mr. Black, you were the point on this. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I just would like to thank Chief Melson throughout this whole process, going back since, I think, October of last year. He's been very, very professional, very welcoming, and it is of my opinion that we need to do something to help them out. They've been, their upstairs of the firehouse has not been livable for them, and they've still been making calls and so forth in a very, very difficult situation. So I think that we owe them at least some sort of aid in fixing the problem.
Mr. Taylor, questions?
Yes, just a couple of, and I read what you have here.
Yes, sir.
How soon do you plan to address these concerns? I mean, if we were to be able to supply some funds, when do you plan to address this? And I guess the bigger question is, do you think this figure is really going to take care of your needs? I mean, I wouldn't want to, and not saying that we're going to do this, but if we did, is this going to put you into a position where you can operate efficiently and so forth?
Yes, sir. We feel that we've taken 6 months. We've gotten engineers involved. We've gotten builders involved in this. We put out a contract. We put out a bid proposal for a scope of work to 14 builders, both in the Richmond area, Fredericksburg area, and in the Caroline area as well. Out of those 14 we put out, we only had 2 people respond back with a price, willing to come look at it to do the work. We've gotten prices back on those folks to immediately address what it would cost to immediately address the repair cost. So to answer your question, all we would have to do is call those 2 folks back in, have them come back in, reprice what it would cost to affix the repairs, included with what y'all see in front of you, which is putting some new walls in, redoing some plumbing, and whatnot. But ballpark figure, Evan Stout, who's a life member of our agency as well, he has been a spearhead in this project, and he's opened my eyes to the whole thing. I kind of had the, this is what I got to deal with. I need to hurry up and